Wow, what a Sunday that was. This is the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Corey Seidman. I'm here in Denver, Colorado. Huge news Sunday morning that Jose Alvarado, the Phillies' top reliever, was suspended 80 games, testing positive for testosterone that was introduced into the body. Dave Dombrowski spoke to reporters on Sunday morning and explained that Alvarado, it came from a weight loss supplement. It seems like Alvarado did not know that he was putting testosterone into his body, putting a banned substance into his body. But, at the end of the day, that's really doesn't make it any better. It's still an 80-game suspension. There's still no Jose Alvarado for the playoffs. He is not going to be paid during this suspension. Players are educated so much on what they can and cannot do, what they can and cannot put in their body. And if there's ever a risk, it's always obviously better to err on the side of caution. This is a complicated situation. You kind of understand it from Alvarado's perspective, right? I mean, Alvarado was coming off of a year that wasn't his best, coming off of like a slightly down year. Very good first couple months last season, then he kind of faded. Wanted to improve his body, right? He wanted to lose weight. And part of that was his diet this past offseason. I remember talking to Jose Alvarado in February in Clearwater, and he was saying that he'd never felt better physically, mentally. He was saying there's absolutely nothing about my routine I want to change. Told us that he started eating clean, cleaner than he had in the past at least. And, it just harkens back and makes me think, we were all writing about how Jose Alvarado was throwing 101 miles per hour in mid-February. And to us, it was like, whoa, this guy's ready to go. Now you have to wonder, did this all play a role? It would be naive to think that it played no role. Alvarado's always had incredible velocity, 99, 100, but he's never been as good as he's been this season to start this season. I mean, this has been by far the best command of Jose Alvarado's career, 1.8 walks per 9 innings this season compared to 5.0 previously as a Philly. Way different in terms of getting ahead of guys, putting them away. Alvarado has the 100-mile-per-hour four-seam fastball, the 99-mile-per-hour sinker, the 94-mile-per-hour cutter, but he's been better able to repeat his delivery every pitch. His mechanics have been better. He's been more consistent, and all of that ties into being in better shape, right? And it's a shame for the Phillies. It's a shame for Jose Alvarado that this happens. So well liked in the clubhouse. His personality is vibrant. It's infectious, permeates the clubhouse. And now he's gone for pretty much the rest of the season. He can appear in games 126 through 162 of the regular season, but Alvarado will be ineligible in the postseason. And the ripple effects of this are huge, because obviously, whether it happens May 18th, May 20th, or July 31st, the Phillies are going to need to add another high-leverage reliever. It's good for them that Jordan Romano's pitching very well. Romano, 8 straight scoreless appearances, 5 of them 1-2-3. He might just take over the closer's role, although I expect what it's going to be is Matt Strahm in the 9th if there's a left-handed pocket, Romano in the 9th if there's a right-handed pocket, more so depending on who comes up in the 8th. Like Sunday, for example, if it was righty due up in the 8th, it might have been Romano as opposed to Strahm, therefore Strahm in the 9th. But it's a good sign for the Phillies that Strahm's stuff looked good this weekend, better than it had in April and the early part of May, that Orion Kerkering was able to navigate out of a jam, that Jordan Romano picked up a save. But when you think about this in the short and long term, the Phillies probably already needed to add another reliever at some point at the trade deadline, right? Like just for the sake of maximum comfort and in case somebody gets hurt or in case somebody's not pitching well down the stretch. Last year, the Phillies down the stretch had 5 guys they could trust. Right now, they have 3 in terms of high leverage in Romano, Strahm, and Kerkering. And I say trust, I mean, Kerkering hasn't been his best this year. Romano obviously had the early season stumbles. Strahm missed time in spring training with a left shoulder impingement. Velocity was down early in the season, creeping back up. So it's not like they're bulletproof right now with those 3 guys even. But, when you think about what this might mean for the Phillies, like Dave Dombrowski might have to make an uncomfortable trade this summer now, because if you want Ryan Helsley, who's a rental, well, the Cardinals aren't trading him right now. And if the Cardinals wanted to trade him, they'd have to be absolutely bowled over. It would have to be the type of offer that they're confident they couldn't top on July 30th after the bidding war has already ensued, right? If you want Mason Miller, who isn't a free agent until after 2028, if you want that guy, you're probably having to trade Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford. And I don't even know if that gets it done, because that 4+ years of club control of an elite closer like that costs you a pretty penny. And Bryce Harper, interesting quote, Bryce Harper knows the game as well as any player, in terms of the business of the game, the marketplace and trades and free agency. And he said after the game, now teams know that we need it. Jim Salisbury asked him, do you think that now you guys need to go out and get something? And Harper said, that's a Dombo question, Dave Dombrowski, but now teams know that we're hurting for a reliever, right? And that's the case. Dombrowski is a really good GM, a really good president of baseball operations. The Phillies have a good front office. They're able to find value in situations like this, and I do think that they will find value at some point, but it's 10 weeks until the trade deadline. So these guys really got to hold their own from now until then. You're going to have more games where Tanner Banks is appearing in the 8th inning or Joe Ross is appearing in the 8th inning, because you also can't use the top relievers every single day. That was a problem early on with Alvarado. It was a problem early on with Alvarado that he was appearing in half the game. Same thing for Strahm. Jordan Romano, the Phillies aren't going to go back-to-back with him too often. They feel comfortable doing it, but they're not going to be doing that like multiple times a week. I would highly doubt, after seeing early in the season that when he appeared back-to-back games a little bit too early, he wasn't as his sharpest. So yeah, big doings in the Phillies bullpen. When something happens like this, it really hurts a team because it comes out of nowhere to a lot of these guys. The players had no idea it was coming. This was a shock to the system of everybody in that clubhouse. And, Jose Alvarado, apparently this is something he took during the offseason. He's not appealing it. And when you're not appealing it, that tells you that, he knows he made a mistake. Jose Alvarado left Philadelphia. He's an emotional guy. He's probably feeling horrible, probably feeling extremely guilty, and there's probably so much swarming through his mind right now. This is a lot of money he's also going to lose out on. This is, he has a player, he has an option in his contract for next year. And, all of a sudden now some questions about his future are in doubt. I mean, the guy is a very talented reliever and he's going to have a home no matter where it is throughout the rest of his prime, but definitely a major, stumbling block here for the Phillies. And, it was all made a little bit easier by the fact that they won Sunday, 1-0. Mick Abel makes his major league debut. We're 8 minutes into this podcast. It's the first mention of Mick Abel. I mean, that just kind of tells you how important the news earlier in the day was, but that was incredible. I landed in Colorado and I watched pretty much the condensed game, and seeing Mick Abel hit 99 in the first inning, maintain upper 90s into the 5th inning, land the breaking ball too, miss a lot of bats. The Pirates are the equivalent, honestly, of like a AAA lineup, maybe a 4A lineup. They have a couple guys in that lineup who are like bona fide everyday players, Brian Reynolds, but even he's having a really subpar season. So in many ways, this was like the perfect sort of intro to the majors for Mick Abel, because there couldn't have been a softer launch pad, right? Pirates are averaging 3 runs per game, dead last in all of baseball, got shut out again Sunday. But this was, putting all the Alvarado stuff aside, what happened with Mick Abel on Sunday was the best case scenario for the Phillies, multiple ways. A, now the kid is brimming with confidence. He goes back to AAA having learned things, having now applied, hopefully now being able to apply things he learned about himself in this one outing. This could help him take off. And Rob Thompson had a quote post-game, the Phillies are sending Mick Abel back down because Taijuan Walker is going to start Wednesday in Colorado in that rotation spot. But Thompson said if he keeps pitching like that, I can guarantee you he will be back up. And I don't think there's any question that Mick Abel's going to be back up with the Phillies at some point this season, whether it's September when rosters expand by a few spots. But he's on the 40-man. There's a lot of attrition in terms of starting pitching that teams go through in the course of a year. Beyond that, though, right, this also reestablishes Mick Abel as a legit centerpiece of a trade. I know that a lot of people aren't going to want to think about that. I'm not even suggesting it's going to happen or anything like that. But that's the other nice thing about this, is that I'm not saying that all concerns about Abel would have been allayed by one good start in the majors, but this would have to cancel out a lot of the questions that anybody would have had about Mick Abel to this point, which were, does he have the demeanor and the poise to stand on a big league mound and get outs and throw strikes and trust his stuff? And he showed that on Sunday. He He's shown that all season. This was, Abel coming into the start was 4-0 with a 1.44 ERA. His prior 4 starts at AAA. So he's been on a real roll. And the questions about control, they're real. I mean, he walked like 5.5 batters per 9 innings throughout his minor league career, and that's way, way too high. Brought that down to 3.7 per 9 did Abel in the minors this season, which is more manageable, but still too high. And I'm not saying that all that is fixed because of one start, but you think back to 2 summers ago, right? Christopher Sanchez, who was never billed as like a top prospect, despite having big velocity early in his career, Christopher Sanchez had walked a batter every 2 innings in the minor leagues. Control was the biggest issue with him. Phillies brought him up for a spot start. I believe it was against the Oakland A's. This is 2023 that we're talking about now. Almost the same situation as with Mick Abel on Sunday, where the Phillies called up Sanchez. They told him, you're going to make 1 start. We're going to send you back down. But if you pitch well, you might find yourself back up here again. And what happened? Christopher Sanchez came up. He threw strikes. He pitched well. He found himself back up. And he's made a major impact for the Phillies ever since. And, it's always kind of stuck out and been kind of crazy that with Sanchez, the question was always, can he throw enough strikes? Then he comes up his rookie year, not his rookie year, but his first full year in the majors, and control was like the biggest piece of his success. He walked 16 batters in 100 innings, Christopher Sanchez, that season. 1.6 per 9 innings, or 1.4 per 9 innings. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that a pitcher who gets older, learns more about his repertoire and the intent of every pitch, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for a guy like that to just figure it out and to drag that walk rate down. And if the walk rate was the biggest hurdle for Mick Abel and he's in the process of fixing it, then all of a sudden the Phillies have another potential number 2 starter, number 3 starter who's young and could be ascending. I'm not saying he's there. I'm not saying that 1 start with 9 strikeouts over 6 innings against a bad Pirates team proves that. But now it's back on the table, right? Now the idea of Painter and Abel being 2 legit pieces of a rotation, that's back on the table. And now, you start to think about like other trades, whether the Phillies need to get a center fielder or a reliever at some point, right? Mick Abel a year ago probably isn't going to be able to bring you back a really good a good player. Maybe now he can. Not saying the Phillies are definitely going to explore that, but the fact that that option has even been created by the start that he's off to at AAA and now this major league debut, that's only good news for the Phillies. Jordan Romano joked after the game that he thought about it, going out to the mound of the 9th inning, that like, yeah, I want to save this game, but I especially want to save the game for this kid after he pitched so well in his major league debut. Matt Strahm said it was the best debut he's ever seen. And the Phillies needed every bit of it because Paul Skeens, 8 scoreless, 9 Ks, went complete. Phillies were just gushing about Paul Skeens postgame. Bryce Harper said, yeah, it's real. It's real. And Rob Thompson referred to Paul Skeens as an ace. Guy's not even 2 seasons into his career, but yeah, he's already an ace. That team, though, is pathetic. That Pirates team is pathetic, man. They can't hit. It's not the players' fault. It's the front office's fault. It's the ownership's fault for not investing any money into the roster. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what you see in some cities. I think Buster Olney had a good tweet a couple of weeks ago how the Brewers have spent $200 million more over the last 7 seasons than the Pirates. And the comparison I think he was silently drawing there is that they're both mid-market teams. So if one's willing to spend that much more, you figure the other would. But just do not understand why you'd even own a team if you're not going to be willing to spend competitively the way teams like the Phillies and Yankees and Mets, et cetera, do. Neither here nor there. The Phillies are, swept the Pirates. They're 3-0 right now on this stretch of 7 straight games against the 2 worst teams in baseball. They're now they're landing in Denver Sunday night. They have 4 with the Rockies, 3 night games and a day game. Rockies are terrible. The Rockies, what are they? 7-34. Let me see what they are. They're 8-38. The Rockies are 8-38, a 174 winning percentage. So, they're on pace to be even worse than last year's White Sox. The Phillies already swept them at home earlier this season. Phillies have Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Taijuan Walker, Zach Wheeler going in the series. I think the bigger question is just going to be how the bullpen shakes out throughout this series. Coors Field's not the ideal venue to have your first experience trying to reformat the bullpen and get outs in a close game late, because it's like really games are never out of reach at Coors Field. Although the Rockies are so bad this season, both offensively and from a pitching perspective, that the Phillies need to win 3 out of 4 in this series. They're playing good baseball. They lost a huge piece on Sunday, an emotional day. Had the gamut of emotions for the Phillies, the pain of losing Jose Alvarado to the joy of watching a guy like Mick Abel debut and have all that success. So that kind of sets the Phillies up now for this road trip. Colorado for 4, Sacramento to take on the Athletics Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It looks like it's going to be like mid to high 90s. I think I saw a 97 in there. So it could be good hitting weather for the Phillies this weekend after, the conducive confines of Coors Field. So it could be a big offensive week for the Phils. You have some key guys who are kind of putting it together. Bryce Harper had a big night Saturday, big night Friday. Still hasn't really been Bryce Harper, the MVP caliber player yet, but it was a good sign on Sunday that the Phillies were able to eke out a run. They scored a run by having singling, and then a single puts guys on first and third, and then the run scores, and that's all you needed. The run scores, and that's enough. They did the job. They played a little bit of small ball. Rob Thompson said after the game that it was almost like a playoff game. It's almost like winning a playoff game, and not because the Pirates are any good, but because Paul Skeens is damn good. I mean, he's going to be in the Cy Young conversation all year, along with Zach Wheeler, who is just on one of his crazy runs. Is Zach Wheeler? One ERA below 2, opponent's batting average sub 200 over his last 6 starts. He's on a real roll. Ranger Suarez pitching well. Jesus Luzardo seems to have gotten back on track in his last start. And curious to see what Taijuan Walker is going to have on Wednesday in Colorado, because that's a place where you need to have pinpoint location. It's best if you can miss bats. You think back to like an Ubaldo Jimenez back in the day with the Rockies, but Taijuan Walker is going to need to keep that ball low, get ground balls, and hopefully make a couple of decent spot starts for the Phillies as they wait for Aaron Nola to return from his sprained right ankle. So thanks a lot for checking out this Phillies Talk podcast. Hope you had a great weekend. Catch you later in the week.